The massive Imperial ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its dark metal hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. On its bridge, Lord Thex stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his silver uniform adorned with medals of conquest. His thin lips curved into a smile as he gazed at the blue planet displayed on the main screen. "Another primitive world for the Empire," he said to his officers. "Look at their simple satellites and space stations. They haven't even colonized their own moon properly." But Lord Thex was wrong. Very wrong. Deep within the Rocky Mountains, in humanity's most advanced military facility, Admiral Reynolds watched the alien ship's arrival on a quantum-linked display. Unlike the cluttered, openly visible satellites that the Empire had detected, humanity's real defense network remained hidden, waiting. "They've taken the bait," Reynolds said to his command staff. "They can only see what we want them to see." He straightened his blue uniform and adjusted the golden eagle pin on his collar. 20 years of preparation had led to this moment. The Empire's first message came as expected. A demand for immediate surrender and integration into their realm. They'd broadcast it openly, using simple radio waves, clearly expecting Earth to be amazed by even this basic technology. Reynolds smiled. Humanity had been intercepting and analyzing Imperial communications for decades, ever since their first stealth probes detected the Empire's expansion. They knew everything about the Empire's technology, their tactics, and most importantly, their weaknesses. "Send the response," Reynolds ordered. "Keep it simple. Make them think we're just learning to reach the stars." Earth's public message was transmitted using the same primitive radio waves. "Greetings, visitors. We are honored by your arrival and request time to discuss terms of peaceful contact." On his ship, Lord Thex laughed. "They don't even have faster-than-light communications. This will be easier than conquering the rock dwellers of Proxima B." He turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare a small attack fleet. Let's show them the might of the Empire." But as the Imperial ships moved closer to Earth, they failed to notice the quantum distortions around them. Humanity's hidden sensors tracked their every movement, while their own scanners showed only what Earth wanted them to see. A primitive civilization taking its first steps into space. Reynolds watched the Imperial ships advance. He knew their weapons, their shield frequencies, their tactical doctrine. Everything about them had been studied and countered long before this moment. "They're entering the outer defense grid range," his tactical officer reported. "Reading 5 Imperial cruisers, 3 destroyer-class vessels, and multiple fighter squadrons." Reynolds nodded. "Let them get closer. Let them think they have the advantage." The Imperial fleet moved with absolute confidence, their formation perfect according to their military doctrine. They had conquered hundreds of worlds this way. Their sensors showed nothing but simple satellites and a few primitive defense platforms. "My lord," an Imperial officer called out, "the humans are launching vessels to defend their world." He pointed to the small ships rising from Earth, deliberately old technology that humanity had kept just for this moment. Lord Thex didn't even bother to stand. "Swat them aside. Show them the power of the Empire." The first shot was fired by the Empire, a plasma beam that destroyed one of Earth's decoy ships. They expected panic, chaos, and immediate surrender. Instead, Reynolds pressed a single button on his command console. "Execute Perseus Protocol." Suddenly, the space around the Imperial fleet came alive. Quantum-linked defense platforms, invisible to Imperial sensors, revealed themselves. Advanced human warships emerged from their stealth fields. The Empire's simple targets transformed into cutting-edge weapon systems. Lord Thex's confident smile vanished as his tactical display erupted with warnings. "Impossible," he shouted. "Their technology. It's beyond anything we've seen." The last thing he saw before his ship's communications were cut off was the sight of his perfect formation crumbling under attacks from weapons his people had thought impossible. Humanity had revealed its true power, and the Galactic Empire had just made the biggest mistake in its history. The first battle for Earth's freedom lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was over, Reynolds sent a new message to the Empire, this time using their own communication channels. You sought to conquer what you thought was a primitive world. Instead, you've awakened a giant. Remember this day, for it marks the beginning of the end of your empire. News of the failed attack reached the imperial capital within days. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with angry voices as military leaders argued about what had gone wrong. The emperor himself sat on his golden throne, his face dark with rage. Impossible. General Reed slammed his fist on the marble table. No primitive species could defeat our best ships. There must be some mistake. The emperor raised his hand for silence. Show me the battle recordings again. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing the complete destruction of their attack fleet. This time, they watched more carefully, looking for any clue about how their mighty ships had been so easily defeated. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Commander Wilson stood in the Strategic Command Center, preparing humanity's forces for what would come next. Huge screens showed the positions of Earth's defense fleet and the movement of Imperial ships across the galaxy. They're gathering a massive fleet, Wilson said to his officers. Just as we predicted. The Empire never learns from its mistakes. He pointed to a cluster of red dots on the strategic display. They think overwhelming force is the answer to everything. The Empire's new fleet was their largest yet, 50 capital ships, 200 cruisers, and countless smaller vessels. They called it the Fleet of Imperial Justice, meant to crush Earth completely. Admiral Parker, the fleet's commander, stood on his flagship's bridge with absolute confidence. We will not underestimate them again, he told his crew. This time, we attack with everything we have. But humanity had planned for this too. Commander Wilson activated Earth's newest defense system, the quantum web. Thousands of tiny satellites, invisible to Imperial sensors, spread throughout the solar system. Each one could redirect energy weapons back at their source. The Imperial fleet arrived with a thunderous display of power. They dropped out of hyperspace all at once, their weapons already charged. The sight would have terrified any normal civilization. Fire everything, Admiral Parker ordered. Show these upstart humans the true might of the Empire. Thousands of energy beams shot toward Earth. For a moment, it looked like the planet would be overwhelmed. But then something extraordinary happened. The quantum web activated. Each energy beam hit an invisible satellite and bounced back toward the Imperial ships. Their own weapons turned against them, slicing through their shields as if they weren't even there. Impossible. Admiral Parker watched in horror as his ships exploded one after another. How are they doing this? On Earth, Wilson allowed himself a small smile. Send in our attack ships, he ordered. From behind Earth's moon, a fleet of sleek human vessels emerged. They were smaller than Imperial ships, but far more advanced. Each one carried weapons specifically designed to target Imperial weaknesses. The Empire thinks size and numbers win wars, Wilson told his captains. Let's show them how wrong they are. The human ships moved with incredible speed and precision. They slipped through gaps in the Imperial formation, striking at vital points that human intelligence had identified years ago. Each shot counted. Each move had a purpose. Admiral Parker tried to rally his forces, but it was too late. His rigid battle plans fell apart as human ships seemed to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles. Retreat, he finally ordered. Full retreat. But only a third of his fleet managed to escape. Back in the Imperial capital, the Emperor watched the second defeat with growing fear. For the first time in Imperial history, they faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with brute force. Commander Wilson sent another message to the Empire. Your weapons are powerful, but power means nothing without wisdom to guide it. Consider carefully what your next move will be. The Empire had made another fatal mistake. They had thought that sending a bigger fleet would solve their problem. Instead, they had only proved that humanity's technological advantage was no fluke. The galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Thomas stood on the bridge of the HSS Nightshade, Earth's most advanced stealth warship. Through the main viewport, he watched as his fleet of 20 ships prepared for humanity's first major offensive against the Empire. "Dark drive systems ready," his engineer reported. "We're completely invisible to Imperial sensors." Thomas nodded, his expression serious. After defending Earth twice, it was time to show the Empire that humanity could strike back. "Begin Operation Lighthouse," he ordered. The human fleet vanished completely, their dark drive technology bending light and energy around their ships. They slipped through space like ghosts, heading straight for the Empire's main supply route. In an Imperial supply base on the edge of their territory, Commander Wells felt completely safe. He had 30 warships protecting his station, and their sensors showed nothing unusual in the area. "Another boring day in the Empire," he said to his assistant. "Those humans won't dare attack us here." He was wrong. The first sign of trouble came when 3 Imperial supply ships suddenly exploded. No weapons fire was visible. No attackers could be seen. The ships simply erupted into balls of fire. "What's happening?" Wells shouted, running to his command center. "Where are they? How are they attacking us?" The human fleet moved through the Imperial formation like a knife through butter. Their eye-targeting systems, combined with human intuition, allowed them to strike with perfect precision. Imperial ships fired blindly into space, hoping to hit an enemy they couldn't see. On the Nightshade, Thomas watched his tactical display with satisfaction. "Target their fuel storage facilities," he ordered. "Let's show them nowhere in their empire is safe." The station's massive fuel tanks exploded one after another. The blast was so bright it could be seen from neighboring star systems. Imperial reinforcements would arrive to find nothing but floating debris. But Thomas wasn't finished. His fleet jumped to their next target, a major Imperial communications hub. Without this hub, a quarter of the Empire's forces would be cut off from Central Command. "They're still using light-speed communications," Thomas told his crew, "while our quantum-linked systems let us coordinate perfectly." He smiled. The Empire thought being bigger meant being better. Time to prove them wrong. The attack on the communications hub was even more devastating. Human ships appeared just long enough to fire their weapons before vanishing again. Imperial defenders swung their guns wildly, often hitting their own ships in their confusion. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor received the reports with growing dread. 2 major facilities destroyed in one day, with no warning and no way to fight back. "How can we fight an enemy we cannot see?" his advisors asked. "Their technology, it's like magic." But it wasn't magic. It was the result of centuries of human innovation and preparation. While the Empire had grown comfortable with their power, humanity had been preparing for this moment. Thomas received new orders from Earth Command. His fleet would strike 3 more targets before returning home. "The Empire thought they could bully us," he told his crew. "Instead, they've awakened a sleeping giant." The next week was a nightmare for Imperial forces. Supplies couldn't reach their destinations. Ships disappeared without a trace. Communications broke down across entire sectors. The mighty Empire began to look vulnerable for the first time in its history. When Operation Lighthouse was complete, Captain Thomas sent one final message to every Imperial command center. "You came to Earth expecting to find primitive savages. Now you know better. This is just the beginning." The Empire had always believed that their superior numbers and firepower made them invincible. But humanity had just proved that invisibility, speed, and smart tactics could overcome even the largest enemy. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and nothing would ever be the same. Grand Admiral Mason stood before the Emperor, his crimson uniform gleaming under the throne room's lights. He had never lost a battle in 30 years of service, and now he had been given command of the Empire's legendary Crimson Fleet. "I will not fail you, my Emperor," Mason said, his voice firm. "The humans have clever tricks, but they cannot stand against 1,000 warships." The Crimson Fleet was the largest battle force ever assembled in Imperial history. 1,000 capital ships, 5,000 cruisers, and tens of thousands of fighters. Their ships filled the space around the Imperial capital like a swarm of angry wasps. On Earth, the Defense Command Center buzzed with activity. Admiral Reynolds watched the massive Imperial fleet gathering on their long-range sensors. "They're really doing it," he said quietly. "They're throwing everything they have at us." The first wave of Imperial ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Unlike previous attacks, they came in small groups, trying to spread out Earth's defenses. Mason was smarter than his predecessors. Clever, Reynolds admitted, but not clever enough. He activated Earth's quantum communication network. Every human ship and defense platform could coordinate instantly, while Imperial ships had to rely on slower communication methods. The battle began in the Kuiper Belt, far from Earth. Imperial ships tried to overwhelm human defenses with sheer numbers. The space around Pluto lit up with weapons fire. "Push them back," Mason ordered from his flagship. "Don't let them use their hit-and-run tactics." But humanity had prepared for this too. Hidden bases in the Kuiper Belt launched swarms of automated fighters. These robot ships didn't need pilots, allowing them to pull maneuvers that would kill any living crew. "Sir," an Imperial officer shouted, "they're unmanned fighters. They're flying straight through our formation." The robot fighters exploded in the middle of Imperial ship groups, their nuclear cores turning into miniature suns. Hundreds of Imperial ships were caught in the blasts. Mason gritted his teeth. "Launch everything. All ships, all fighters. We'll drown them in numbers." The battle spread across the entire solar system. Around Saturn, Imperial cruisers faced off against human stealth ships. Near Jupiter, massive capital ships exchanged fire with Earth's defense platforms. The asteroid belt became a maze of explosions and debris. "They're pushing toward Earth," Reynolds noted calmly, "just as we planned." As the Imperial fleet moved closer to Earth, they found themselves being gradually surrounded. Human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, striking from impossible angles. The quantum communication network allowed Earth's forces to coordinate perfectly, trapping Imperial ships in killing zones. "It's a trap," Mason realized too late. "They let us push forward just to surround us." The battle raged for 7 days. The space around Earth's solar system lit up with so many explosions that astronomers across the galaxy thought a new star cluster had formed. By the 7th day, the mighty Crimson Fleet was in ruins. Less than a quarter of their ships remained. Mason stood on his damaged flagship, watching his fleet crumble. "How?" he whispered. "How can they be so strong?" Reynolds sent the answer directly to Mason's command screen. "We don't fight because we want to rule the galaxy. We fight because you left us no choice." This is the difference between conquest and survival. The Battle of the Solar System, as it would become known, marked the greatest defeat in Imperial history. The Crimson Fleet, pride of the Empire, had been shattered. On Earth, Reynolds looked at the casualty reports with a heavy heart. They had won, but victory had come at a cost. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "The Empire now knows our true strength. The real war has only just begun." Lieutenant James stood in the shadows of the Imperial Academy's Great Hall, watching the Emperor's latest propaganda broadcast. On the massive screen, images of Imperial might played while announcers promised victory against Earth. But James knew better. He had seen the real battle reports. "More lies," he whispered to the small group of officers gathered around him. "They're not telling us the whole truth about Earth." James had a secret that could get him executed. His great-grandmother had been human, a fact he had hidden his entire military career. Now, that hidden heritage made him question everything the Empire had taught him. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Clark prepared for her most important mission. The human fleet had discovered something unexpected: other enslaved species in the Empire who wanted freedom. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," she told the United Earth Council. "We're fighting for everyone the Empire has crushed under its boots." Her words reached far beyond Earth. Using captured Imperial communication networks, humans began broadcasting the truth across the galaxy. They showed evidence of their victories and offered help to any world that wanted to break free. In his private quarters, James watched these broadcasts in secret. "Look at their cities," he told his trusted friends. "They're not primitives at all. The Empire lied to us about everything." More Imperial officers began to question their leaders. They had seen the mighty Crimson Fleet destroyed. They had watched human technology tear apart their best defenses. The Empire's claim of superiority was crumbling. "We can't win this war," a senior general admitted in a secret meeting. "But the Emperor won't listen to reason." James took a dangerous step. He began contacting other reform-minded officers, forming a hidden network within the Imperial military. They called themselves the New Dawn Movement. On a distant Imperial colony world, an alien species called the Draken watched human broadcasts with hope. They had been slaves of the Empire for 300 years. Ambassador Clark's message reached them. "Earth stands ready to help any people fight for their freedom." The Draken sent a secret response. Soon, Earth's stealth ships were delivering advanced weapons to resistance fighters across the Empire. James and his network helped coordinate these deliveries, working from the shadows. "The Emperor's going to find out soon," one of James's allies warned. "We need to be ready." The warning came true sooner than expected. Imperial security forces arrested 3 New Dawn officers on the capital world. Under torture, they revealed parts of the network. James received the warning just in time. "Activate emergency protocol," he sent to all his contacts. "The time for hiding is over." Across the Empire, Reforma officers took control of their ships and bases. The Empire's own military began to turn against it. James led his destroyer and 5 other ships away from their fleet, joining the growing rebel forces. Ambassador Clark seized the moment. She sent a message to every world in the Empire. "You are not alone. Earth will help you break your chains. The time for freedom has come." The Emperor raged in his palace as reports of defections flooded in. A quarter of the Imperial fleet had already joined the rebels. Entire worlds were declaring independence. James brought his ships to Earth, the first Imperial officer to openly defect. As he stood before the United Earth Council, he spoke for many in the Empire. "We were taught that Earth was primitive and weak. Instead, you showed us that real strength comes from freedom and justice." The Empire's perfect order was shattering, but something better was taking its place. The revolution had begun, and there was no stopping it now. The Imperial Palace shook as angry crowds gathered outside its walls. Inside, economic advisors delivered the worst possible news to the Emperor. "Our economy is collapsing," the chief advisor reported, his hands shaking. "We've lost half our mining worlds to the rebellion. Our supply lines are in chaos. We can't build ships fast enough to replace our losses." The Emperor's face turned red with rage. "Then take more resources from the loyal worlds. Force them to work harder." But even this desperate order couldn't save the Empire. On Earth, Admiral Reynolds watched the Empire's growing crisis with careful attention. The time had come to reveal humanity's greatest technological achievement. "Begin Operation Starbridge," he commanded. Deep in the Nevada desert, Earth's most secret facility hummed to life. Scientists and engineers had worked for decades to perfect this technology. Now it would change the galaxy forever. "Starbinder system is ready," the chief engineer reported. "Artificial wormhole generation starting now." In space above a major Imperial shipyard, reality itself seemed to tear open. A massive portal of swirling energy appeared from nowhere. Through it came an Earth battle fleet, striking the shipyard before its defenders could even raise their shields. The Imperial commander watched in horror. "Impossible. They can appear anywhere. How can we defend against that?" Similar portals opened across Imperial space. Earth's fleets could now strike anywhere, at any time, without warning. The Empire's defensive lines meant nothing. Lieutenant James, now openly commanding rebel forces, received the news with joy. Earth's new technology will free every world in the Empire, he told his crews. The Starbinder gates change everything. The Empire tried to adapt, spreading their forces to protect everything. But this only made them weaker. Human ships would appear through a wormhole, destroy their targets, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. On the factory world of Nexus Prime, automated manufacturing centers worked day and night, producing ships and weapons for Earth's forces. While the Empire struggled to replace their losses, humanity's industrial capability only grew stronger. The difference is simple, Admiral Reynolds explained to his officers. We built our industry to help people live better lives. The Empire built theirs only for war. Now they're learning which approach works better. The Emperor made one last desperate move. He ordered all remaining loyal ships to protect the capital world. They cannot be everywhere at once, he shouted. Even with their portal technology, they must run out of ships eventually. But he was wrong again. Through the Starbinder gates came not just Earth ships, but vessels from every rebel world. The Draken brought their swift attack craft. The freed worlds of the Outer Rim sent their heavy cruisers. Former Imperial ships, now fighting for freedom, joined the assault. Your own arrogance destroyed you, James sent a message to his former leaders. You thought conquest made you strong. Instead, it surrounded you with enemies waiting for a chance to break free. In Earth's command center, Admiral Reynolds received reports of Imperial units surrendering across the galaxy. The Empire's economy had ground to a halt. Their mighty fleets were reduced to hiding in friendly ports. The Empire thought they could outproduce us, outfight us, and outlast us, Reynolds told his staff. They never understood that real strength comes from innovation and cooperation, not domination. The breaking point had come. The Empire could no longer pretend they were winning the war. Their choice was simple: change or be destroyed. As the sun set on Earth that day, Reynolds sent a message to every world in the galaxy. Tomorrow, we begin building something new. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation and freedom has begun. The Great Hall of Earth's United Nations building had been transformed for this historic moment. Representatives from 300 worlds gathered under its dome, including former Imperial worlds, rebel planets, and Earth's allies. Even the Emperor himself was present, though no longer wearing his crown. Admiral Reynolds stood at the main podium, looking out at faces of a dozen different species. 6 months had passed since the Empire's surrender, and today they would shape the future of the galaxy. We could have destroyed the Empire completely, Reynolds began. We had the power, but humanity didn't fight this war to become conquerors. We fought for something greater. In the audience, Lieutenant James sat with other former Imperial officers who had joined the rebellion. He remembered the day, just 2 weeks ago, when the Emperor finally admitted defeat. The Empire's biggest mistake wasn't attacking Earth, James whispered to his friend. It was thinking that strength only comes from fear and control. Ambassador Clark took the podium next, holding up the document that would change everything. The Galactic Charter of Rights and Freedom. Every world will have an equal voice, she announced. Every species will have equal rights. The Starbinder gates will be open to all for trade and travel. Knowledge and technology will be shared, not hoarded. The former Emperor shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Next to him, Lord Thex, the same commander who had first attacked Earth, looked thoughtful. He had seen his mighty fleet destroyed by human technology, but more importantly, he had seen how humans used their power. We offer friendship to our former enemies, Clark continued. Earth's advanced technology will be shared with all worlds. Our automated factories will help rebuild damaged planets. Our medical science will be available to everyone. From the back of the hall, a Draken elder spoke up. Why? Why offer peace when you could rule just as the Empire did? Reynolds stepped forward again. Because true strength isn't about ruling others. It's about helping each other grow stronger together. Earth learned this lesson centuries ago, through our own wars and struggles. The gathering moved to the signing ceremony. The former emperor was the first to sign, officially dissolving the empire and accepting Earth's terms. One by one, representatives from every world added their names to the charter. James and his fellow former imperial officers were invited to sign as well, symbolizing the unity between former enemies. As he wrote his name, James thought about his human great-grandmother. She would have been proud to see this day. The Starbinder network will connect all our worlds, Reynolds explained as giant screens showed the growing web of wormhole gates, but more importantly, will be connected by friendship and trust. Lord Thex, who had once sneered at Earth as primitive, stood to make a surprising announcement. I request permission to study at Earth's universities. Our pride blinded us to how much we could learn from you. The ceremony ended with a spectacular display. Ships from every world, including former Imperial vessels, flew in formation above the United Nations building. Among them was Captain Thomas's stealth fleet, now visible for all to see. Ambassador Clark raised her hands toward the sky. Let this day be remembered not as the end of an empire, but as the beginning of something greater, the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. As the sun set on this historic day, Reynolds stood at his office window, watching ships from a dozen worlds moving peacefully through Earth's Starbinder gate. They came to conquer what they thought was a primitive world, he said quietly. Instead, they found teachers who showed them a better way. That's humanity's greatest victory. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what Earth had been fighting for all along.